Sup gamers, it's me, Sojourner Kai, freshly out of the shower and ready to share some thoughts with you all. Because, sometime in early, like first couple weeks of September, I made a pretty public statement of a screenshot of a notepad thing where I basically said that I was really frustrated with how I was spending my time online, was really frustrated with YouTube, and that I was going to be offline without further notice. I was just going to be gone. I was out of there. And I feel like I need to explain that. I didn't feel like I needed to explain that before, but with the way that a lot of people have responded to this by seeing me in Twitch chats, by seeing me in my own Twitch streams that I've been able to do, seeing in my community posts on YouTube and on even in my YouTube comments here and there, it's become readily apparent to me that it was really immature of me. It was not a smart move, as the cool kids would say, in that regard. And I feel like I owe you all an explanation. And the baseline explanation, the underlying thing that's going to be permeating throughout this entire video that I record, is that I am terrible with time management. This is probably pretty apparent to anyone who hired me as an editor, but my time management was horrendous. And it caused me to spend a lot of time on these social medias in such a way that was unhealthy and detrimental to, what I need to be doing and, better things of life that were actually fulfilling and living my life out as I should be. As a successful person and not as a content creator or a personality. And even then, as a content creator, I'm sure that a lot of the successful content creators that I know will agree in saying that time management for their jobs is especially important. They have to manage, what time they spend with friends, what time they can spend streaming, what time they can spend recording and writing, so that they have this healthy balance. And I've never been very good at that. And it caused me to have this really negative relationship with Discord and Twitter and everything. But there's a little more to that, right? Like, obviously, someone who has bad time management and recognize that would say that outright, and they wouldn't have such a negative response in such a way that it caused them to immediately cut ties with pretty much everyone that cared about them. And it really is kind of like interesting to see just how many people actually cared about my presence. It just seems weird because I'm just a dude, right? But let's start back a little bit with kind of how my mental health went into that sort of thing. So ever since I was young, I kind of had this idea that everyone hated me. And this isn't like to get pity comments or anything and say like, oh, everyone hates me, oh, woe is me. Really, the concept came from just being in a class in middle school and high school that my parents have told me, like, yeah, the class that you were in, the entire reason we moved you out of that school was because that class was notoriously one of the worst classes in pretty much that school's history that I had been in. And part of that, came with, hey, he's the weird white kid among a group of predominantly Asian kids, mostly Taiwanese American kids. And, you get excluded because middle schoolers and high schoolers are ruthless. And that kind of bred this, I just realized, like, it bred this idea in my head that, not that everyone hates me, but if I want to be accepted by a group, I have to be there on the basis of some merit. And for the most obvious one is like for the friends I met through content creation and the group that I had joined, and I'm very grateful for their friendship. I always thought for the longest time that, not always thought, but kind of had this prevailing feeling in the back of my head that I was there just based on my own content creator merits or my editor merits. Obviously not true, and I didn't think of them in the same way. Like, I didn't think that if they didn't put out a good video that they weren't any less my friend. I really enjoyed the company of all of these people, Okanya, Wamper, Nikki Boy, Fizzlenuke, Base, and Zeus. All of you guys. Like, all of you guys are awesome people to be around. There's a whole long list of you in there. Um, but anyway, at, at a certain point, I felt like I wasn't putting out content that was like viewable or that wasn't very good because the views on it just weren't doing well. And so I thought that my connection to these people, subconsciously thought that my connection to these people had been severed because I was just a bad content creator. I just wasn't, being very successful, and really not recognizing that I was friends with them based off of those merits. So when you combine that idea with the fact that I was spending way too much time doom scrolling on Twitter and way too much time in these Discord communities that made it like a weird, unhealthy dependency on these internet communities, you kind of understand that if I remove what I consider to be my own value from those communities and everything, it would then lead to the idea that I'm not doing good enough to be these people's friends. So even in those connections, I thought that I had nothing, and clearly I do. And I'm sorry for letting you all down in that regard. Now, the unhealthy relationship that I have with the internet is also based in how I've moved around a lot. So my username is Sojourner Kai. The first half, the first segment, Sojourner, is a word that means someone who lives in a location for a short amount of time or lives in a location temporarily. And that is entirely because I've moved around a lot in my life. I mentioned that I was living in Taiwan. I'm semi-fluent in Mandarin, fun fact. I moved after I graduated high school a number of years ago, 6 years ago in 2016. I moved and lived in different locations just based on circumstance for at least a month at a time. I think I counted 10 to a dozen different spaces. Like I've moved every 6 months basically, and lived in different locations every 6 months. And the problem with that, now it's cool because I get to see a lot of the world. I saw a lot of different countries and stuff, but the drawback of that is that you don't really have a solid footing to work off of in terms of a community when it comes to like physical location. But instead, what you do have, no matter where you are, I can still talk to my friends from Taiwan, and I can still talk to my friends from Canada or any other part of the world through the internet. The internet was always something that was kind of there as this sort of basis for me. And so I saw the internet as like a healthy thing because I was so dependent on it for my connections. When I really shouldn't view it like that if I was using it the way that I was, doom scrolling, just like looking through chat messages to see what was up and using Discord as my entertainment, which is a terrible way to say it. It's a good connection tool, and that's Discord and Twitter are incredibly good for making quick connections, and joining calls and having that sort of rapid fire thing within reach. And they were my entertainment for a while, and it would cause me to outright avoid responsibility for just hours on end. And as you know, Twitter is exceptionally toxic. Both platforms, though, Discord and Twitter, are abound with teenagers in a lot of their communities. And I think inherently because of the time that I was spending with them, that made me feel really uncomfortable, because the kind of person that is my age and would be spending the same amount of time caring about what teenagers has to say had, let's just put it at that, they had better be nothing short of a high school teacher. Which even that can have bad connotations, but you get what I'm saying, right? I don't want to, it made me feel like, which I'm not going to say on Twitter or on YouTube because they'll probably block this video and I don't want that to happen. But it's still possible to cultivate positive interactions, and it did. But the time I spent made it more of like almost a friendship or like like a parasocial relationship with some of these people in these larger communities that I was modding for. And that's, to be frank, creepy and weird. And I didn't know how to put that into words. And so I just immediately left it all behind. Again, tying back to time management skills, which I don't have, which I didn't have, and I'm working on getting better at. Now, of course, in that same Twitter post, I wrote that I was upset at YouTube, and really, like, I don't need to be. YouTube is kind of like a university class in a way, where the university class has specific parameters that they want you to submit. And if you don't submit according to those parameters, you can't get upset with the professor. I can't get upset with a broken system as YouTube. And YouTube, because of my success of the one video, has categorized me as the Riot Games boy. I don't want to be the Riot Games boy, and I'm not going to be. And that is me directly saying I don't want to be successful on YouTube, because if you look at analytics, which I shared in a community post where I talked about this a little bit more in depth, but in the community post, I basically said that, showed off that my Risk of Rain 2 video only had 52 impressions, which is basically YouTube taking that video and recommending it to people within its first 48 hours, versus my Is League of Legends Any Good in 2022 video, which was within the first 48 hours, it was recommended over 29,000 times, close to 30,000. YouTube taking that video and recommending it. It's not me like putting it out anywhere. And I've been off of Discord and Twitter, you know, since those videos have been out. So I didn't post those videos anywhere. Those videos grew on their own and expanded and found their own audiences on their own. Like, I did not try to find any other audience through that. Now, the reason why it's weird for me to get upset about that is because, one, YouTube's very clearly said, like, hey, if you want to have your YouTube channel be successful, you got to do Riot Games. And I'm not always interested in Riot Games. Again, in my community post, I said that I want this to be more of a compendium of all of my interests and things that I feel like talking about. A lot of different video essays and other videos on games that I'm enjoying at the time, or topics that I want to talk about. And I don't need to be upset at YouTube for not recommending my content more, because YouTube just doesn't want me to make that content, but I don't care. I'm making what I enjoy right now, and I'm having a fantastic time writing out these scripts. I have so many like 9 to 10 page scripts that I'm not even done with, that I'm so excited to share with you all. My Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky video script right now is 9 pages long, and I've just gotten to the intro of the game, and I'm talking about like why the story was great and everything, and I'm excited for that video. I would not feel the same way about League of Legends videos, and so I'm not going to make consistent League of Legends or Valorant or even Legends of Runeterra content, because I don't always have a complete vested interest in those games. And so therefore I can't expect every video to do well, and that's fine. I can't expect everyone to have the same interests that I do. The interests that I have are uniquely Sojourner Kai, and the people who come out to see those videos, you know, day in, day out, I'm very grateful for, because, you know, I just, whatever reason they come out, they come out, and I'm still very happy to even get 100 views on a video consistently, and that's really cool to me. But before I made that sort of realization about like the way that I viewed my relationships with other people, the way that I viewed my relationship with Discord and Twitter, this is going to be my last video. This video was going to be my last one. You probably saw at the end of, if you're looking closely at the outro for my last 2 videos, I've been doing a countdown. And that countdown, excuse me, is the number of videos I have to go until I have 100 videos on this channel. And I was planning on this being the 100th video and being the last one I ever made. Like, I was just going to stop right here and just leave the site entirely, because, again, my time management skills just weren't that great, and they still aren't. I'm still working on them, and I need to work on my degree. I have other things that I need to do right now, and I felt like Discord and Twitter was too much of a detriment, and I wasn't using them as a tool. And so therefore I just wasn't really engaging with them that was in a way that was valuable. So, you know, why did I realize this sooner? Why did I just kind of like disappear off the internet and everything? In this next section is going to sound like I'm blaming someone else, and it's not at all. It is my fault for not setting boundaries, for not managing my time well, for not communicating clearly, is like the biggest thing that I've done wrong here. But back in May or June of 2022, I came to this realization that I'm telling you about now, that I am spending way too much time for hours on end caring about what some teenager on Discord or Twitter or whatever has to say, letting that kind of dictate how I spend my time online. I really shouldn't be. But then at the end of June, I got into a relationship with someone, and that made me stay online more. And I was a little bit uneasy about it, but I liked hanging out with this person because I liked this person. I'd known them for a couple of years at this point, and I thought they were really cool. But then the end of July came around, and as you guys remember, my great grandmother passed away at the end of July. And I went down to a memorial service in California, met up with my family and everything there. My parents caught up with me and wanted to see how I was doing. And basically, a lot of our conversation there also came down to like, hey, you are not using the internet as a proper tool as it should be, as a great way for communication and connection. You're just kind of using it to be on there. You're just using it to consume. You're not doing anything with the time that you're spending, and you're not spending it well. And I was like, damn, yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I am spending this incorrectly. And the next couple of weeks that followed after that with this relationship were really rocky because I was scared to admit that I didn't want to stay as much online with them because I was afraid that by not spending as much time as I had been, that I would lose the relationship entirely. And so I said nothing, but still tried to distance myself from conversations that I felt were, I guess, like long-term engagement in a way. See, I was totally fine with like popping into people's chats, playing a game of League of Legends or Apex or whatever, because that was a low engagement thing. It was like, oh, yep, no, it's been an hour. It's been about an hour or two. I gotta go. I gotta head out here. But with this other, relationship thing, it was a lot more long term. And without me saying, because I didn't communicate that I needed to manage my time better and I needed to stay off the internet, and I thought that I should probably, uninstall Discord and stay off the internet entirely. I ended up making the mistake of not saying anything at all. And that drove a rift between us. And the relationship fell apart sometime around the end of August because I was spending more time talking to some streamer friends of mine because those were low engagement, low time use conversations, along with the time that I was already spending offline and not messaging this person about the time that I was spending. And ultimately they thought that I was lying to them. And I was, in a way, because I wasn't being truthful with the way that I wanted to spend my time. And that was totally my fault. And another reason, well, it would have been a reason for me to stay on the internet, but because I didn't have that relationship anymore, I thought it was a better reason. Like, well, I don't have this relationship. I'm spending too much time online with Discord and Twitter. I'm spending too much time not being productive. I should just go offline entirely. Otherwise, I'm going to start giving myself an inch. And when I give myself an inch, I give myself a mile. And I'll just keep going back to these bad old habits all over again. Bottom line is, though, I'm not good with managing my time well. And unfortunately, I still, at this moment, don't trust myself to manage my time well. I will be back in May at the soonest, because that's when I finish this year of college. Because then I'll be able to reassess that, yeah, I've been using my time well. I've been wanting to use Discord as a way to connect with people and stuff, instead of just using it as like a way to passively pass over time and all of that. And that is, though, if I trust myself to use these platforms as tools, I'm going to reevaluate at that time. And if I feel like, I am willing to just be like, oh yeah, I can be on Discord at these hours and set boundaries and clearly communicate tools for time management, I think that'll go a lot better. Right now, I don't really trust myself to do that, so I'm not going to come back. So, and one other thing I wanted to talk about as well was like my streaming difficulties. As you all know, I've had troubles with internet service providers out where I live, and so it might constitute another move for me so that I can get back in editing, because I was really miss editing for other people, because I find other people to be way more hilarious than I am. But also, this house that I'm in is extremely loud. I am right next door to my uncle's family, and they have a bunch of small children, all under the age of 8. And then my cousins also live nearby, and they have 2 small children under the age of 5. And so it's like constant screaming and like running around and stuff, and I can hear them all in this apartment all the time, and that sound is really hard to work with when you're in this house, unfortunately. With the inconsistent Wi-Fi as well, I'm not able to upload that quickly. I'm not able to stream at a very reliably high quality. So I might move again between now and next summer. We'll just see how things work out. But as far as content on this channel goes, I've already explained that I want this to be a compendium of my own interests, and I'm not really going to keep caring about what YouTube is doing to my channel, because I know what they want me to do and I'm not interested in it, and that's okay. That's my call, because I'm not making a career off of this, and I don't really plan to either. This is just a hobby for me, something that I'm having a lot of fun with, and I hope that you guys are okay with me continuing down that hobbyist road instead of just being the League of Legends or the Valorant funny highlights guy. But ultimately, I am sorry that I disappeared, because I honestly didn't know how to put my thoughts properly into words before. I even have like some notes written up on my screen here of things I wanted to say, just so I could keep everything condensed to a proper video that was consumable. And so I don't ramble and go off on different tangents and stuff. But yeah, that's where I'm at. You'll see some more video essays, of course, come out in the next couple of months. I'm trying to release one every month, depending on like what day of the month I feel like. And for those of you who stuck around, I appreciate you greatly. If this makes you leave, sorry that I had to make you leave. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments down below. That's all I got to say. So, thank you all so very much for watching. Safe travels, and goodbye.